On the farmlands where we work, the farmers have killed all the lions and spotted hyenas. So they do not occur in the farmlands, which is why cheetahs like it there a lot. So they do not have to compete with them for prey.
Welcome to Nature's Guardians. I'm Micah Siegel. Each week, I talk with people working to save and help animals around the world. They are nature's guardians, and you can become one too. Today, I'm talking with Michelle Kral from Cheetah Conservation, Botswana. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
To start, where are you and what's it like there?
I am in Botswana, in southern Africa. Rainy season is approaching, and it is the hottest time of the year at the moment. It's nearly 42 degrees Celsius.
So tell us about cheetahs and what you do with them.
I work for Cheetah Conservation Botswana, and we are an organization with 25 people based in the farmlands of Botswana, where we try to promote coexistence between people and cheetahs.
Tell me about your background and how you got to Botswana.
As you can hear, I'm not from Botswana. I am from the Netherlands originally. I studied biology in the Netherlands. After my first year at university, when I was 19 years old, I did a course in South Africa on wildlife conservation, working with camera traps and big carnivores and in a game reserve with elephants. And that entirely changed my world because growing up in the Netherlands, I had no idea that a job like that was something that I could do. I continued studying in South Africa and also did research on lions in Kenya and worked on tigers in Nepal. So in that time, I studied lots of different animals in different environments. And then from lions to tigers, it's a small step to cheetahs in Botswana.
So do you have a presentation ready?
I do. I work for an organization called Cheetah Conservation Botswana in the Western Kalahari. It's a very dry desert region. We want to promote coexistence between people and wildlife. We work with farmers a lot. We have a farming department. We do lots of community outreach, working with the people so that people can benefit from wildlife. We have an education program. And then lastly, we have a research program. That's a program that I'm in charge of. So we do research on cheetahs and how they behave. Here you can see a map of Africa, and then in the south you can see Botswana, where I am. Globally, there are just over 7,000 cheetahs. The majority of those cheetahs currently exist in southern Africa. So in this map, in the lighter orange, you can see the cheetah's range that it was about 100 years ago. And then in darker orange, it's their current range. So they've suffered a really big range contraction of nearly 90% here in southern Africa. They share the land with people and lots of livestock. And this is where the challenges are to date for the cheetah. So we work in a place in Botswana called Hansi District. It's a province that's connecting the populations in Namibia and Botswana. It's a district known for cattle farming. And cattle farming is also very important for income in the country. And Hansi District is known because it's all private farmlands. So it's all really big farms up to 100 squares of kilometers. And this is where the cheetah exists, on these private farmlands. Therefore, if we want to do any research on cheetahs, we need to work with the farmers a lot because we depend on them to gather any information on cheetahs because we need to access their lands. Here you can see on this photo that's what these farmlands look like. It's grass, there's some roads, but it's all fenced. This is the biggest challenge for cheetahs. And people also think, oh, you work with cheetahs, you must see them all of the time. But actually, we do not ever see them. I've been working here for 5 years now, and it's only on maybe 5, 6 occasions that I've seen cheetahs while working. So we make use of GPS collars so we can see where they move and when. We make use of camera traps, as you can see here, to also see how many cheetahs there are, because we can identify them individually by looking at their spots, because they're all unique. We make use of lots of software that can do that for us, but we also work with farmers a lot to develop new devices to help them protect their livestock from cheetahs. Because we do not see them, we really rely on these trees in the landscape. And this is where we place our cameras to record the cheetahs, because cheetahs from all over will go there and they will mark the tree. So they do that to defend their territory, to also see who else has been passing there. So it's a cheetah communication device. So if you want to gather any information on the cheetahs and what they're doing in the landscape, we need to monitor these trees. We did that for 2 years straight. We collected nearly 7,000 photos. We're all trying to analyze them and find out how many cheetahs are there actually in these farmlands. It's a really big task to do so, because you also need photos from every angle to identify them. And what is really good about these camera traps, that as you can see in the corner, they also record the time and dates. So we can see when the cheetahs are active and where, and if an individual is moving around different farms. We have machine learning that will automatically help us to detect them. We can also gather information on antelopes in the region. You can see a steenbok here, and a kudu, the big antelope. So those are the cheetah's favorite prey species. So it's also really important for us to do research on cheetah prey to see if there's actually enough prey for the cheetahs to live in these areas in our study area. So this is also a way for us to check if they're healthy. In this way, my colleagues found out that the cheetahs in Gansu on these farmlands, they're bigger than elsewhere on the continent. They're the biggest cheetah ever recorded. On average, they can weigh about 45 to 50 kilos. But we have found cheetahs over 70 kilos. So they're a lot bigger than anywhere else. One of our main programs at Cheetah Conservation Botswana is our livestock guarding dog program. So if the livestock are out in the field with the dog and the dog is barking, this can deter the cheetah. It scares the cheetah away. And what we found in our study area, that the farmers were so relieved they had such a big reduction in attacks on livestock once they had a dog with their herd. At the moment, we have more than 200 dogs out all over the country, helping farmers and cheetahs to coexist. We know the GPS collars are working really well, and we can see where the cheetah is moving. So we try to find out with universities in the US, with Texas A&M University, to also see how do cows move. So we also have cows with an ear tag, so that the farmers can check where their cows are. If an alert is coming in, they can go out and check. So then farmers can also actively be involved in the herding of their livestock. And this, of course, will also help to protect their livestock from attacks of cheetahs. People always think, oh, you work with cheetahs every day, but we work mostly with people. So community engagement is very important. That is a short summary of what we do in the farmlands of Botswana.
So, can you tell us about their biology and how they live?
Cheetahs, unlike some of the other large carnivores, such as lions and spotted hyena, cheetahs live solitary. Females live alone, and most males as well, but sometimes they team up with a brother. Can be 2 brothers or 3 brothers, and then we call them a coalition. And they can cover very large areas, especially when it's dry, to make sure they have enough resources in their range. They usually eat medium-sized antelope. They also eat smaller prey sometimes, such as hares. They can have litters up to 6 cheetah, and we've seen them. It's very cute. And then after about 1.5 years, they start to go their own way slowly, learning how to hunt, and then they will establish their territories.
Do they have any natural predators?
They do. The cheetah is a bit smaller than leopards, and spotted hyenas. And this is very challenging for cheetahs. In Botswana, we have lots of lions and spotted hyenas, but they mostly live in the protected areas. And unlike in South Africa, the protected areas in Botswana are not fenced, so the animals can go in and out. So lions and spotted hyenas can also go in and out. But on the farmlands where we work, the farmers have killed all the lions and spotted hyenas. So they do not occur in the farmlands, which is why cheetahs like it there a lot. So they do not have to compete with them for prey. But what lions and spotted hyenas also do is that they eat cheetah cubs. So if cheetah cubs get born in protected areas with lots of lions or spotted hyenas, their survival rate is very low.
So I've heard that cheetah cubs look like badgers. Why is that?
So that is also a strategy. If you see in photos of cheetah cubs, you will see that they look very fluffy. It's almost like they have manes, so lots of fluff and fuzz on their back. But this is also a strategy for cheetahs to protect them against any predators because they blend into the grass. So it's a survival strategy.
So what are cheetahs' closest relatives and how did they evolve?
Cheetahs are part of the cat family. So they're related to lions and leopards, but there are different subspecies within the cheetah. So the cheetahs in Iran, there are different subspecies from the one that we see in southern Africa.
And they climb trees.
They do climb trees. And it's because we place our camera traps at cheetah marking trees. You would almost think that they live in these trees because that's where we see them the most. But it's mainly for marking their territory. It's a cheetah mailbox where they gather information about all the other cheetahs in the area.
So how do they sleep? How do they hunt? And when do they hunt?
The cheetah is well known for its speed. As you can imagine, they need lots of space for that, and they need to see very well. Cheetahs are diurnal, which means that they're active during the day because they need to rely on their eyesight to do these chases. But what we see in the farmlands, where there's lots of people and lots of conflict, and cheetahs get killed over conflict, is that they become active at night instead to avoid people and their livestock. So now we're also trying to find out, does that affect their hunting abilities?
What are the most interesting things you've learned about cheetahs?
The interesting thing that I've learned about cheetahs, and it sounds very contradictory because there's so much that we still do not know. This is especially challenging when we try to find them, to put a GPS collar on them. We place a cage at one of these cheetahs marking trees, and then we place lots of bushes around it, so that if the cheetah wants to go to the tree and mark, they need to go into a cage, and then both sides of the cage will close. When we place our cage, we usually wait for a couple of days because the cage will smell like people, and the cheetah do not want to go in because they know. And then we can see on the camera that the cheetah has been visiting. Then we think, oh, finally, because it's so difficult. We're trying for weeks and we still do not have a cheetah trapped, even though we know that they visit about every 4 days. And then finally, we see on our camera as a cheetah went into the cage and stepped over the trigger plate that they need to step on for both ends to close. And then we realize they probably know. They're not falling for our tricks.
Yeah, I can see that the cheetahs would learn to outsmart the cages. What's their lifespan?
They can grow up to 14 years old. But what we've seen in the farmlands is that they usually are between 6 and 7 years of age when they die. It can be conflict with people, mostly farmers that kill them because they eat their livestock. But it can also be of accidents. What we've seen in our recent 2 mortalities, because we have cheetahs with the collar on, and the collar will also give a sign if the cheetah is not moving anymore, and it will send you a text message saying that there was a mortality. So we go out and investigate. And what we've seen in the last 2 cases is that both cheetahs had really bad injuries. It looked like one had been stuck in a fence, and another one, we think it was because of thorny bushes on the farmlands. Because as I mentioned, they can chase their prey and they move very fast, but they need open space for that. But on these farmlands with lots of cattle, the more cattle is grazing on the farm, the more thorny bushes will grow there. And it's very unsuitable for cheetahs. And then in protected areas, they can die because of attacks by lions or because lions steal their prey. So there's lots of threats to cheetahs, from natural causes to also people-induced causes. So the average age now is between 6 and 7 years in the wild.
Do you have any cheetah stories then?
Yes, one of the stories that made a big impact on me is that there was a farmer in the region where we work, and he was very well known for killing cheetahs on his farm because he had a really big cattle farm and he was perceiving these cheetahs as a problem. One day he called my colleague and he said, I've trapped another cheetah, but I don't want to shoot it. What can you do? And my colleagues went there with a GPS collar and informed him, can we place this collar on the cheetah? Because then we can inform you where the cheetah is moving around. Maybe the cheetah is moving off your farm, and then we can inform you when the cheetah is entering your farm again. This way we can also help you protect your livestock. Would you be willing to give it a try? And he said yes. It was a female cheetah, a young cheetah, and the cheetah was named after his daughter. From that day onwards, we sent him weekly updates on how the cheetah was moving around on his farm. It changed his entire perspective. From someone who did not like cheetahs at all, he became very invested. And every day he was asking, where's the cheetah? Together with his daughter, they were checking every day. And they were wondering, what is the cheetah up to today? And he told me, I've learned so much about cheetahs and their ecology and how they move, and I will never shoot a female cheetah again. And that is the power of working with the farmers and seeing how these perspectives can change, even if people have been hunting cheetahs over generations.
So what else can you tell us about cheetahs?
The cheetahs, of course, are very unique because of their spot pattern. They have up to 2,000 spots, and every individual is unique. So if we do any studies on cheetah population, we need to look at the spots. This can be very challenging. So we usually look at the legs. They have the most distinct pattern, and we look at their tail. There's lots of inbreeding happening, which we know is the case for cheetahs. The easiest way to detect that is to feel their tail. And if they have a little kink in their tail, it means that there's inbreeding. And what also then makes cheetahs unique is the size of their tail, because it's just nearly as long as their body.
What do you do about inbreeding?
The region where we work, all cheetahs are free-ranging, so that is challenging. But in South Africa, where game reserves are fenced, there's lots of work going on to move cheetahs between reserves.
Africa is the fastest growing continent on Earth. How will that play out for cheetahs?
What we've seen in Southern Africa is that the livestock production is also growing to also feed the growing population. We need strategies in place for livestock raising also to be sustainable. What we've seen also in some part of Botswana is when there's lots of livestock, this changes the landscape from grass open areas that cheetahs like. The landscape can become very overgrown with thorny bushes. Cheetah prey species and antelope, they do not like that because they graze. Some of them are grazers, they depend on grasslands. So unsustainable livestock practice is not good for the cheetah prey population. That might then have a negative effect. They might attack livestock instead because it's more available. In Namibia, it's been even registered that cheetahs can have eye injuries because of these thorny bushes. So with the growing population, with the growing livestock population, it's essential that it's managed properly and also manage the land and do habitat restoration.
Thanks for being here today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy talking about cheetahs.
And thank you for watching. You can help animals by hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel. I'll see you next time on Nature's Guardians. Bye.